I bought my current building about a year ago, and I was searching for a while for the right type of situation that had a large tracking room, because I love tracking bands together in the same room, and I didn't necessarily have the budget to buy a building and build a studio. And I found this building that had already been built, was a working studio for the past 8 or 9 years, and everything was wired. So when we got all the gear moved in, I took the patch bay, put it into my rack, and the next day we were up and running. It was awesome. I work in a pretty wide variety of genres, and even when I'm doing pop stuff that has a lot of programming in it, I still love bringing the players in together if we're gonna have rhythm tracks that are a live band. And there's a few reasons for that. One is just the energy of putting creative minds together in the same room. And I think it brings about a fun, exciting process where happy accidents can happen and people can collaborate in a creative way. When I grew up, my dad was a huge fan of a wide variety of music. So when I was a kid, he would take me to concert with Jimmy Page, Alan Parsons, Matchbox 20, Semisonic, rock bands. And then he took me to Snoop Dogg and Master P concerts and stuff like that, because that was what I was into. And so I kind of grew up around listening. Whenever I was in the car with him, we'd be listening to all kinds of different music. And so I think that when I look back on my career now and in the wide variety of genres that I work on, I think that had a big influence on it, the music I listened to when I was younger. And it wasn't until a few years into living in Nashville that I started getting involved more in the mainstream country scene. Initially, a lot of the work that I did was with indie rock bands, a lot of hip hop artists, some gospel stuff, R&B, a lot of pop music. And I've been extremely fortunate to have the opportunity to work with a wide variety of artists across many genres, which I really, I guess I'm proud of that I've had that opportunity, but very fortunate as well. Those artists range from Big and Rich, like I mentioned, to Zakk Wylde, John Legend, Bret Michaels, Little John, just across the board. It's been an incredible opportunity to be here in town and have access to all these artists that want to come here for pristine recordings. So about 2 years ago, I had a pair of JBL monitors in my main room that tweeters blew on. Around that time, I was introduced to ADAM monitors and that you guys had moved the headquarters to Nashville, which was incredible because I was frustrated with not being able to have access to the speaker company that I currently had in the studio. Once I heard the monitors, I was sold, so there was no question whatsoever. But an additional selling point was that I would have help right here in town if something ever went wrong. And we did have a little issue with one of the monitors when we first had them, and I called ADAM, and the next day I had a replacement, and then they were shipped out to be fixed. I got them back, and they've been perfect since then. So we started with S3X-H's, which were incredible. And what I loved immediately about the difference was I was struggling with the ability to really refine the top-end control of the mixes that I was working on. Especially with country-driven stuff or folk-driven stuff that has a lot of acoustic instrumentation on it that needs very pristine, clear, defined top end. And I wasn't getting that out of the monitors that I was hearing before. So I was doing a lot of reference listening in other environments to figure out kind of what was missing. And when I first put the ADAM monitors up and pulled them up, not only did I hear that definition that I was looking for and have the ability to tweak it and refine it more specifically, but there were things in the mixes that I had forgot we put in there that were all of a sudden coming through in some of the more dense pop mixes that I would work on. And so I loved them. And the other thing that is great about ADAM monitors is the transparent response that they have. That the concept is to design something that sounds the way it actually sounds, that it's not hyped in any capacity. So I've loved that about the ADAM monitors. Recently, I was introduced to the new line of S2Vs, which I first tried out in my B room, and I sat there for an hour just listening to music because they totally blew the monitors that we had in there before out of the water. It sounded like the audio was coming to me in 3D. It all of a sudden surrounded me in there. And our B room has a little bit of a smaller control room. It has good acoustic treatment, and so I was able to really hear the depth of what the monitors could do. But the sound was full and complete. It had the transparent response, but it had another level of depth that I hadn't heard in the previous line of ADAM monitors, which made me love them even more. So it had what you guys are always been known for is great, and now it's sort of like the monitors on steroids. They just give you that little bit more, but they didn't sound too hyped, which I still don't understand. So whatever crazy physics stuff you guys did, you did the right job.